is in the interest of time, I think probably the best way to do this is I'm going to introduce these ideas, but don't worry about getting down this first slide. I want to talk about all three of these injury to property, but I want to get through as much as I can before I run out of time here. So first, again, don't worry about writing these. We're going to get in just one of them today. There are three types of property protected by civil law. There's what's called real property. Now, just to kind of give you an example, real property is just something you own that you can't move. So the best example is like house, land, that's real property. There's private property, something you own you can move. So I just give examples, cars, jewelry, etc. There's also intellectual property, things that you create, that you think of, and that belongs to you. Now's when we got to start writing. So here's the thing. I want to go through all three of them. I think I can get through one, maybe even start the second one today. But what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about civil law that protects real property, that protects your house, that protects your land, whatever it is. First, what we're going to talk about is trespassing. Now, again, like I was setting up, trespassing is a criminal charge. But if someone's trespassing on your land, you can also sue them. So it's going between criminal and civil. If someone walks onto your property, you can have a case against them. So I always just kind of use my own personal example here. I own a house, it's not even huge, but I do have a big front yard. And that front yard has a big tree, and that front yard is protected by criminal and civil law. So if someone walks onto my yard, I can sue them. Now let's kind of play it out here a little bit. What would you need to prove that they were trespassing? Intent? Yeah, you could. That'd probably be helpful. I'm talking about like actual like physical evidence. Is my word against his good enough, you think? Probably not. What do you think? May I give something else?
Like damage to like a fence or something.
So glad you said that. Let me kind of put a pin in that for right now. I'm thinking like, what about just like a video of him being on my property? Good enough? Yeah, absolutely. That's good enough. Because Maggie, this comes back to what you said. I can sue that person even if there's no damage done. If he just walks on my lawn and I go to the court and say, that guy damaged my lawn because there's a footprint in it, that's well enough. If he breaks my fence, that's plenty, because now I can sue for damages. Even if there is no damage, I can still sue for him being on my property. Yes, sir.
So the entire football, and I overthrow him, goes over the fence, he goes and grabs it.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah.
For real. Now, I'll be the first to say it. Someone like that happens, I don't want to go to court for that. Especially because I don't want to see you two guys anymore. So here's the thing. Most of the time people would say, just don't do it again. But you could go to court for it. It could happen. Now, there is something else I want to cover. What's called the nuisance ordinance as well. Now, what nuisance ordinance says is, you have the right to enjoy your property. That you are protected from someone interfering with your ability to enjoy your backyard, front yard, house, whatever it is. What this means in regards to the law is, if someone interferes with your ability to enjoy your property, you now have a case against them. Now, I'm just going to kind of use one example. There can be multiple. But one example is, if your neighbor is throwing a raucous party, and it goes on into the night, it wakes you up, you can't go into work the next day because you're too tired, whatever it is, you got a case against them. You can sue them for having a party next to your house. Now, is it going to happen every time? Probably not. But if it's a continued event, now you have a case against them. It can't just be a one-time issue. It has to be consistent. So if your neighbor has another raucous party, now you can take them to court. Yes, hon?
If you're like throwing a party, but you like go and tell like your neighbors, like
I will say this, if we're talking like legal issue, that would at least be helpful for your case. You go into court and you say, look, I told my neighbor, he said it would be okay, but it doesn't absolve you completely. It's kind of like we were talking about when we first started, like if you sign a waiver, it doesn't just hand over all your rights. It just kind of helps. So, yeah, in a legal sense, but it wouldn't absolve you from everything. Yes.
If in there it says like you waive the ability to press charges, like when they sign it still, would that?
No, because you can't sign away your rights. Kind of like we're talking about with the waiver, it helps, but it doesn't just absolve you completely. No waiver like that ever would. You still have legal protection, whether you want it or not. Now, I wish I could have gotten a little bit farther, but it's okay. I know we're just out of time. So when I see you tomorrow, we're gonna have to pick up here, but we've also got to do neglect when I see you guys tomorrow. So it's gonna be a little note heavy when I see you then. But that's it. Have a good day. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Say again, sorry.
Thank you.
Oh, a prenup? What that is it's a contract. So what you're saying is like, hey, should we get divorced, we are both agreeing that you get this, I get this. I mean, any lawyer can fight a prenup, using that example. But I mean, if it's signed, notarized, everything, you get this, I get this, it's fairly ironclad.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a good day, guys.
Bye, thank you.
Bye, guys.